This extended pandemic, the lockdowns, the uncertainty about when things will go back to normal, especially in the areas of, for instance, schooling, has produced all sorts of pressures on parents and on families, some more than others. And joining us now to talk about one attempt to allay some of these added pressures, we have the CEO of Florio, Vijay Ravinjan. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. So tell me about Florio and how it's going to help to deal with some of the added times and pressures and being stuck at home for some of these families.
Yeah, so Florio focuses on helping special needs families, especially kids with autism. What we do is we use virtual reality to create scenes that are clinically designed to help kids with developing social and behavioral skills. These are some of the very skills that they might be working on if we didn't have a pandemic and we were having special education classrooms and at-school specialists working on different types of social and behavioral skills for development. And so what Florio does is we use virtual reality to allow the child to experience these scenes and develop these skills. And when the pandemic hit, we rushed a capability that is now being used actively by some schools and therapy clinics where we enable distance learning-based delivery of that virtual reality. So you can have a virtual reality headset in the home of the family and either having a parent working with them in person, which is of course great if you can have that happen. But in other cases, to have specialists from the school system or a therapy clinic being able to over the internet in a telehealth or distance learning style work with the child on delivering social skills.
Well, yeah, I can certainly imagine how that would help. So in terms of the focus on virtual reality, why is that the direction that you went with? Is there a particular reason that that's helpful for children with these particular needs?
Yeah, virtual reality is a powerful medium when you're trying to teach whole body skills, skills that require focus, that require simulating how the real world works. So to give you a simple example, I can talk you through how to cross a street, or we could practice in the real world where the cost of making a mistake could be quite severe. Or you can practice in virtual reality where you can see moving car traffic, you can learn the basics of looking both ways, you can understand the difference between stop signs and street lights, pedestrian walk signs. And so virtual reality can be an immersive medium where you can teach these skills, you can practice, and you can visualize them and work through the types of sequencing that might be sometimes difficult for kids with these challenges.
So you mentioned one example there of learning to cross the street. What are some of the other areas of learning that this service provides?
Yeah, so we have quite a wide selection today, over 175 lessons and growing. These span basic skills like eye contact and the ability to imitate other kids. So these are kind of core building block skills that are delayed for children with disorders like autism. Additionally, we have different types of stimulation, so how to talk to peers, how to help make friends, how to detect bullying and potentially get help in the right manner. And probably most notably for this moment, some of our main research has been on a set of lessons on how to interact with law enforcement safely. So we've been working on teaching kids if they're on the street and having limited independence and they have an encounter with law enforcement, how to broach the types of conversations that the police might have.
Yeah, that's really interesting and certainly timely. Was this curriculum regarding law enforcement, was that made in conjunction with law enforcement? Was it a particular focus considering the conversation that's been going on nationally all year? Or is it just an important set of skills to have?
Well, as many folks know, these types of challenges have been going on for years now. And so the origins of building these lessons was a terrible incident in 2016 outside of Miami involving an adult with autism and their therapist and the police shooting the therapist. And families have a large fear factor around you spend all this energy helping the child with special needs get to a point where they could be on the sidewalk, they could be in the park themselves or playing with friends, but then you don't have confidence that in the types of interactions that happen with law enforcement, that they're going to be able to understand what's going on, say the right things to de-escalate the situation. And so we started working with the Montgomery County Police Department outside of Washington, D.C. initially, and then later with the Philadelphia Police Department. And we were fortunate enough to be awarded a 3-year grant from NIH to build out a whole suite and then research it through Children's Hospital Philadelphia. And so we've been working closely with Children's and with Philadelphia Police Department to research these lessons and build those out. And we're actually now going to be ending those to also include empathy training for the police officers, as well as exploring other ways that we could be helpful in bridging the gap that exists.
So you mentioned how the number of lessons you have is rapidly growing. Like looking forward to the future, a year or two in the future, what's the goal for your service?
Yeah, there's a myriad of different life and transition goals that kids have as they grow up, and that for children with different types of challenges, they might have trouble learning those skills. We see a big opportunity to build an expansive catalog of social and behavioral learning and trainings. It starts with when kids are young and need help with things like eye contact. They grow up and interacting in the classroom, interacting with friends, playing, and then eventually it's with job interview trainings, living independently, basically the types of goals every family has where they want their children to become independent, gainfully employed adults. And when you're raising a child with special needs, there's a whole set of challenges that make it hard sometimes for you to envision getting to that goal.
And so I'm sure that during the research process and while the product's been live, you must be communicating with families. What's the reaction been like to the having access to this sort of product?
Yeah, family feedback has been tremendous. They see that we're building something that meets a need. As I said, there's lots of challenges, and while there's therapy services available and school systems doing what they can, there are major gaps in filling the needs that families have, especially as children get older and start to reach that place where they're starting to have needs around transition and adulthood. And so our curriculum has been largely driven by customer feedback. So we built a few lessons, started working with Children's Hospital Philadelphia, started showcasing what we had, and then the rest of what we've been able to build out since then has been driven by positive customer feedback and saying, I wish you did X. And so, we're constantly driven by the moment. So our latest lessons are around why to wear a mask during COVID-19. Kids with autism.
A lot of Americans could use that lesson.
Yeah, at least 40%, right? So the issues around droplets and why we should be wearing masks to prevent prevention. Sometimes having extra levels of visualization and being able to literally understand how two people can be infecting each other in proximity can be helpful. And so the lessons we've built use virtual reality to show what it looks like for the droplets flying around, what would happen if you put a mask on, what happens when you yell and cough, and some of the other things that we now know potentially contribute transmission rates.
Awesome. So if someone is watching this and they're interested, maybe they have a family member that they'd like to introduce to this, where can they find out more information about the service?
Yeah, we would love for you to go to our website, floreotech.com, FLOREOTECH, and you'll get information there both for yourself as a family if you're interested, but also if you want to introduce your school system or your clinic that you're going to for therapy services. Special needs families are suffering right now during COVID-19. Special education, just a lot of it doesn't work over video conferencing. And that meanwhile, it's potentially very challenging to go to a clinic right now. It's hard to maintain social distancing. A lot of children, especially if they have special needs, have difficulty adhering to the type of guidelines that are out there. And so, I think we're trying to meet a need that families have during this very trying time.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a very positive thing. I think that we're all, for a variety of reasons, looking for alternatives to video conferencing 6 months into this thing. And so you're doing a very positive thing. So thank you both for that and also for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.